All right, what's going on, everybody? So should I use a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, to fund the down payment for an investment property? So I'm going to take equity out of any property. It could be my own, personal home that I live in, that I reside in. It could be an investment property. It doesn't really matter. You're just pulling equity out of another property in order to put in a down payment for another property. A lot of investors do exactly that. Sure, you can, is the bottom line. Why not? Because the lender, the underwriter, who's looking at, all the paperwork and documentation, trying to figure out if they should approve you for the loan, it's an accepted way of doing it. You can use a HELOC, home equity line of credit, to fund a down payment. It's completely acceptable. Now, here's the thing. I want to stress that, I've seen this throughout the years where a lot of investors are, investors that I know, investors that I've worked with or even helped out, that they think use a HELOC. But what they don't realize is that it's not as simple as, well, let me just go get the HELOC, I'm good. And they don't even ask any questions as to, well, is this going to work or not? And I'm going to go through the way I think it should be done if you're going to do it. And I'm going to walk through why, as I explain it, why I think, there's mistakes that are often made along the way when people try to use a HELOC to use it for a down payment for a new property. Okay, so let's start with the first thing you do. You draw from the HELOC. And make sure it's your HELOC. Don't come up with any other ideas. Don't tell me, well, I wanted to use a SLOC, for example, a savings loan or something like that. Those don't fly. Lenders won't even allow that, but they will allow a HELOC. Okay, so that's number one. Draw from the HELOC. Let's say you draw $100,000. Move it to your bank. Okay, get it over to the bank account and show that balance there for the lender to see that you have the money. Because what's going to happen is the lender's going to ask you, all right, where's the money for the down payment? Where is it coming from? And they will really check this very closely, especially if it's an investment property. But even if it's, any kind of property, they're going to check it, right? In my opinion, after you move it, make sure that you're very clear to the lender where the money came from. So you say, listen, this down payment is coming from my HELOC on my primary residence. You want to, or from another investment property. You don't want, and I've seen this happen too many times where investors are just a few days away from closing and then the lender finds out where the money came from. And then they say, well, that's not acceptable. You can't take it out of that investment property. You could have done it from your primary residence. Again, every lender's a little different. Every underwriting, system's a little bit different than the others, but keep that in mind that you want to be very transparent with the lender on where your money came from. And here's the other one, and I've seen a lot of investors get tripped up with this. When you use the HELOC, okay, you've got to include it in the payment for the debt to income ratio. So when the underwriter from the lender starts looking at the, your numbers, they're going to check, okay, let's see, you got this HELOC. Well, that's debt right there, right? You got a monthly payment on that HELOC that you just pulled out. Now, all of a sudden, you pulled out $100,000 from a HELOC. Well, you got to pay that monthly payment back to the bank, whatever, plus interest, most likely in a 15, 20, or 30-year fixed amortized loan. So now all of a sudden, it looks like what you thought before you pulled out the HELOC, your debt to income ratio was pretty good. I'm making $100,000 a year. And all I got's my house and my car. I got plenty of money. Oh, wait a minute. Now I got a HELOC. And suddenly what you thought you qualified for, you don't, because your debt to income ratio changed and it didn't meet that minimum underwriting requirement, usually 45 to 48%, whatever it may be. All right. So keep that in mind. I've seen that mistake many, many times. People run out and get the HELOC before realizing, oops, my debt to income ratio changed. I shouldn't have even gotten this thing because I can't afford what it is I want to get. Now, that's how it's probably going to play out for most people. That's basically the gist of the whole thing. They're going to ask where the money came from. So again, when the lender asks, you got to disclose. You got to tell them where it came from, and you got to, it's got to qualify. It's got to qualify for your debt to income ratio. But again, it is. I want to make it very clear, and this is not financial advice. Everybody does things a little bit differently. A lot of people don't want that extra debt. They just want to use savings. They don't want to create another loan to get another loan. I understand that. It's leverage over leverage. It can be challenging, right? But it is also a good idea for a lot of people that want to get started on investment properties. It is a good way to go forward. And it's very legitimate. It's commonly done. I've seen many investors do it this way. And the question comes up a lot lately because people do have a lot of equity in their homes that they've built up in the last several years. So it is a legitimate way to go about it. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time.